everything you think you know about the sport of MMA might only be scratching the surface. Rivalries aren't always what they seem, friendships can unravel at a moment's notice, and champions might be one risky decision away from losing it all. With so many careers on the line and so much on the horizon, each announcement feels like a final puzzle piece, yet no one can see the full picture. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the biggest stories swirling around the MMA world, from shocking controversies in training camps to emotional confessions of heartbreak, from whispers of a glorious comeback to sudden UFC cuts. This journey will carry you through every rumor and revelation. But hold on tight. The road ahead is filled with real-life stakes, and you never know which path a fighter will choose when everything is on the line. The MMA world buzzed in disbelief when Alex P announced he was heading to Australia just weeks before his light heavyweight title defense. At a time when most fighters would barricade themselves in hardcore training, blocking out every distraction, Alex decided to corner his friend and fellow UFC standout Sean Strickland. Many fans and analysts shook their heads, questioning the wisdom of such a move. Daniel Cormier was particularly vocal, suggesting Alex might be spreading himself too thin ahead of a collision with Magomed A, a man known for his ruthless blend of striking and grappling. Considering that Magomed might be the most dangerous challenge Alex has faced in his MMA journey, the timing of a transcontinental trip looked suspect, but Alex, unflinching in the face of criticism, quickly fired back with a confident response. According to him, this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. He had long-standing commitments in Australia and merely aligned those obligations with the opportunity to corner Sean. For Alex, it's all about synergy. He insists that traveling with a trusted circle of teammates and coaches keeps him motivated no matter where he's physically located. He believes a shared energy propels both him and Sean in ways critics can't fully appreciate. Yet the doubts persist. Fight preparation is about more than physical readiness. It's also about mental focus, stable routines, and the efficient use of every precious moment. Some worry this unorthodox approach could leave Alex exposed against a well-rounded powerhouse like Magomed. If Alex pulls off a dominant performance and defends his belt convincingly, he'll prove that mobility and spontaneity don't necessarily sabotage a training camp. If he falters, however, critics will pounce, calling his Aussie excursion a costly misstep. Either way, you can't deny Alex's willingness to take risks in a sport that punishes even the smallest mistake. And judging by the next wave of news, he's far from the only fighter who refuses to take the usual route when greatness is on the table. In a realm where every card brims with possibility, the UFC keeps fans guessing by lining up matchups that can flip entire divisions. Two upcoming fights have especially caught the public eye, each with its own blend of tension, ambition, and curiosity about the future. Sergey Spivak versus Shamil G. slated for UFC Qatar on May 17th. This heavyweight showdown features two men who've tasted both crushing defeats and electrifying victories. Sergey Spivak finds himself recovering from a first-round TKO loss to John Almeida, a rising star who's begun to instill genuine fear in the division. Spivak's fans know him as a tough competitor with surprising agility for his size, but that last defeat left them questioning how quickly he can rebound. Across the cage, Shamil G rides a tide of momentum, carrying a respectable 14-1 record into the bout. His only professional loss came at the hands of Jairzinho Rozenstruik, one of the heaviest hitters in the heavyweight lineup. To top it off, Shamil demolished Thomas Peterson by first-round TKO not too long ago, showcasing vicious power and a killer instinct. With both men eyeing a statement win, this clash could herald a new contender, or reveal who might be slipping down the heavyweight ladder. Montel Jackson versus Daniel Marcos. Scheduled for UFC Demo on May 3rd, this bantamweight battle is bursting with intrigue. Montel Jackson has strung together 5 consecutive victories, his most recent highlight being a first-round knockout over Dean Blackshear. Known for a patient yet destructive striking style, he's won fans by showing that a single, perfectly placed shot can end any fight, yet Daniel Marcos refuses to be dismissed as an underdog. Undefeated and fearless, he's coming off a close, split decision win over Adrian Jans. Many believe Marcos has only begun to demonstrate his true capabilities, and stepping in against a surging opponent like Jackson might force him to elevate his game yet again. The bantamweight division always seems crowded with hungry prospects, and both men are determined to emerge as serious contenders. These fights remind us that the UFC never stops rolling out fresh opportunities for athletes to push boundaries. But while these announcements stir excitement, a deeper tension smolders beneath the octagon, one linked to the raw emotions and real-life motivations that drive fighters every day. We've all seen tough talk on social media, but Joaquin Buckley's recent Instagram Live session was different. Instead of standard bravado, fans witnessed a raw confessional from a man on a mission. He spoke about personal struggles, champion-level dreams, and the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Above all, Buckley turned his attention to current welterweight champion B, a figure widely understood to be Belal Muhammad. Instead of the typical trash talk, Buckley offered genuine respect, applauding Belal's relentless style and unstoppable mindset. Buckley insisted that fans who keep underestimating Belal are the reason he continues to rack up wins, because doubt is the rocket fuel that drives, and yet Buckley's respect doesn't mean he's backing down. If anything, it underscores the magnitude of what he wants, that coveted welterweight title. Listening to him speak about his ambitions, you hear a fighter who isn't just chasing personal glory, he's trying to secure a better life for his family, taking care of his grandmother, providing opportunities for his children, and silencing the voices that said he'd never make it this far. These motivations light a fire in Buckley that's impossible to ignore. Joaquin's language is blunt, sometimes censored, but undeniably intense. He's not interested in half measures. When he says he wants to hurt somebody, he's referencing the raw determination needed to achieve greatness in a division that showcases wrestlers, strikers, and everything in between. With so many welterweights jockeying for a shot at glory, some fans question whether Buckley can outperform the competition, but the real question is whether the raw, emotional drive he holds can tip the balance in his favor. Interestingly, Buckley's fervor for a title has parallels to another fighter's heartbreak, someone else who's been on the edge of UFC gold and is now determined to make someone pay for his frustration. Michael Chandler's heartbreak and the Paddy Pimblett showdown. Few defeats sting like a title loss, especially when you believe the stars had aligned for your crowning moment. Michael Chandler's heartbreak stems not from just one painful encounter with Charles Oliveira, but two. The first time they clashed, Chandler had the UFC lightweight title in his grasp, only for Oliveira to snatch it away via a brutal TKO. When the rematch arrived, Chandler craved redemption, but once again found himself on the wrong end of the result, losing by unanimous decision. Chandler has never been shy about exposing his vulnerabilities. He recounted sitting in an SUV with his wife right after that second defeat, tears streaming as he questioned his future. Title shots in the UFC are precious, so squandering two in a row felt like a monumental loss. But heartbreak can be potent fuel, and Chandler quickly converted despair into determination. His next target, Paddy Pimblett, a fighter known for magnetic charisma, unorthodox technique, and an army of loyal supporters. Some see this as a mismatch, suggesting Chandler is still near the top of the lightweight hierarchy, while Paddy hasn't proven himself against high-level competition. Chandler, however, seems laser-focused on exorcising the ghosts of his Oliveira losses. He promises that someone must bear the punishment he's carried inside since that November heartbreak, and that someone, he now says, is Paddy. This is the nature of the business, Chandler explains. You take on whoever is placed in front of you, top contender or otherwise. Losses sting, but they can also open the door to greater clarity. If he wants another title shot, he can't just bemoan what could have been. He has to prove he's still one of the division's deadliest threats. And for Paddy Pimblett, it's a leap into shark-infested waters, a chance to silence skeptics who dismiss him as mere hype. Even in a sea of talk about welterweights and heavyweights, few matchups feel as personally charged as this one. But if you think that's the only fight fueling tension right now, brace yourself. The welterweight division is about to see one of its most intriguing matchups, one that has experts, including former champions, split right down the middle. Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Clash of styles. When the UFC announced that Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, JDM, would clash at UFC 315, fans immediately started dissecting the angles. The consensus? You've got a high-pressure, grinding wrestler on one side, and a calm, precise striker on the other. It's a classic scenario in MMA. Unstoppable takedowns versus unstoppable hands. Some, like Renato Moicano, predict an easy path for Belal, pointing to JDM's perceived struggles against high-level wrestling. Gilbert Burns echoed similar sentiments, leaning heavily in Belal's favor based on personal experience. After all, Burns has faced Belal's suffocating pressure firsthand, and that insight can't be easily dismissed. Yet Kamaru Usman, an athlete who's dominated the welterweight scene in recent years, takes a more nuanced view. While he acknowledges Belal's superior grappling, he underscores JDM's remarkably composed style. The Aussie doesn't panic, doesn't tense up, and continues to chip away with crisp strikes regardless of adversity. That kind of mental toughness might disrupt a wrestler's typical game plan, especially if Bilal can't impose his will quickly. Then there's the risk factor. JDM hasn't fought in nearly a year, raising questions about potential ring rust. Coming back from a long layoff to face someone as relentless as Bilal might be a gamble. But flip side, if JDM's been sharpening his wrestling defense in private, we could see a breakout performance. No matter the outcome, the ramifications will be huge. A Bilal victory could reinforce his contender status and push him closer to a title shot. If JDM pulls off an upset, the welterweight division might be thrown into chaos, with fans clamoring to see more of this unruffled, high-level striker. In MMA, momentum can shift in an instant, and one win can open doors you never knew existed. But that's the very nature of the sport. One day you're on the rise. The next, you might be questioning whether it's time to call it quits, or if you even want to return at all. Dustin Poirier's take on Conor McGregor, comeback or closure. Conor McGregor looms over the lightweight and welterweight divisions like an enigma, massively influential, yet absent from the octagon since breaking his leg in a fight against Dustin Poirier. Those last two showdowns ended disastrously for Conor, with Poirier knocking him out in the second round in January of that year, and Conor suffering a TKO through injury later in 2021. Since then, rumors of a comeback swirl constantly, but so far, talk is all fans have. Dustin Poirier has no illusions about the power of hype. He's battled Conor thrice and come out victorious twice in emphatic fashion, yet he remains one of the few who believe Conor could still make a triumphant return, if he truly wants it. To Dustin, Conor's biggest battle is not just with injuries or ring rust, but with what he calls an addiction to the limelight. No one can doubt Conor's flair for spectacle or his ability to captivate a global audience. The question is whether that flair still coincides with the drive to fight at an elite level. When asked if he'd face McGregor again, Dustin candidly admitted it would be about the paycheck more than anything else. He's already beaten Conor decisively, so from a legacy standpoint, there's nothing left to prove. Still, in MMA, money talks, and a blockbuster payday could be reason enough. Poirier also acknowledges that if anyone in the UFC can reignite old ambitions, it's McGregor. Despite personal animosity, Dustin respects the Irishman's knack for engineering huge moments. It's a strange place for fans. Either Conor returns, reclaims the spotlight, and shakes up an entire division, or he fades away, leaving only endless what-if scenarios. But if you think the path to greatness is as simple as a comeback, you might want to check out the next champion's stance on how much time he has left before he says goodbye for good. Alexander Volkanovski. Eyeing the final chapter, Alexander Volkanovski stands tall as one of the sport's pound-for-pound best, a featherweight king who's drawn admiration for his relentless pace, adaptability, and well-rounded skill set. Yet at 36, he's beginning to talk about the finish line, preparing to face Diego Lopez for the vacant featherweight belt at UFC 314, a belt vacated by Elat Tour. Volkanovski hints that his days in the octagon might be numbered. He's open about the punishing grind of maintaining an elite standard. Every training camp is a gauntlet of pain, exhaustion, and ceaseless repetition. For Volkanovski, being anything less than top tier is unthinkable, but that top tier comes at a cost. He's juggling the demands of fatherhood, personal ambitions, and a burning drive to defend what he's achieved. Volkanovski's vision of the future vacillates between immediate retirement and a continued reign. One part of him imagines recapturing the belt, defending it once or twice, and then sailing away from the sport on his own terms. Another part, the one that thrives on the thrill of combat, urges him to keep pushing for big fights and bigger paydays. Fans are split. Some love the idea of a legend bowing out at the peak of his powers, while others yearn to see him keep dominating until the body simply can't hold up. He remains uncertain. The only constant is that each time he steps into the octagon, he does so as though it might be his final appearance. When you fight like everything's at stake, your performances can become unforgettable. Perhaps he'll defend his belt repeatedly, enthralling fans a bit longer. Or maybe he'll find closure sooner than expected, ensuring he exits with minimal regrets. Either way, it's a testament to the fleeting nature of success in MMA. 1 minute you're a dominant force, the next you're deciding how to preserve your legacy. Yet for some fighters, that decision is made for them. As the next case shows, even a solid record isn't always enough to secure a spot under the UFC banner. The Taylor Lapilus cut, entertainment versus sport. In a move that shocked fans and fellow fighters alike, the UFC recently released bantamweight competitor Taylor Lapilus. despite his boasting a 3-1 record since returning to the promotion. Even more puzzling, Lapilus was riding a 2-fight win streak, having notched solid, if unspectacular, decision victories. But none of that mattered when the axe came down. The immediate uproar on social media was harsh. Critics slammed the UFC for prioritizing fan-friendly, explosive fighters over those who rely on a more methodical approach. Some pointed out the apparent double standard. How did a fighter like Sam Alvey, who went 0-8-1 in his last 9 outings, remain on the roster for so long, while Lapilus, with a winning record, got cut? Part of the controversy centers on the UFC's role as both a sports league and an entertainment platform. If the primary goal is to feature the most skilled fighters, then a winning record should speak volumes. But the entertainment factor throws a wrench into this logic. Many suspect the UFC parted ways with Lapilus because his style lacked those viral highlight moments that often capture the audience's imagination, and in turn, boost pay-per-view sales and social media engagement. This isn't the first time Lapilus has faced an abrupt release. His first stint in 2015 ended similarly, cut from the roster despite a respectable record. The pattern suggests that fighters who don't deliver a dynamic brand of excitement risk job security, no matter how good they are on paper. Is MMA truly a pure sport, or is it trending toward pure spectacle? From Alex P. risking his title hopes to corner a friend halfway across the world, to Taylor Lapilus being cut despite a strong record, the MMA landscape is a kaleidoscope of unpredictable developments. We've seen Joaquin Buckley pour his heart out, vowing to unseat a champion he respects yet aims to dethrone. We've watched Michael Chandler stare heartbreak in the face, only to transform that pain into a vow to make Paddy Pimblett pay. Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena promise to collide in a test of unstoppable wrestling versus calm, methodical striking. Dustin Poirier remains pragmatic about Conor McGregor's uncertain future, while Alexander Volkanovski weighs the last chapters of his storied career. Every story you've just heard highlights a single truth. MMA is more than mere competition. It's a crucible where personal struggles, destiny, and raw ambition blend into a spectacle that keeps fans riveted. In this sport, talk of retirement and talk of championships often exist in the same breath. The line between heartbreak and triumph is razor thin. Title aspirations can shatter in seconds, but redemption might still be one fight away. So whether you're drawn by the glitz of superstars, the under-the-radar brilliance of unheralded prospects, or the raw human drama playing out behind the scenes, stay tuned. The next shocking twist might be just around the corner, and with each new development, you'll witness how quickly the tide can turn in a sport that's as demanding on the mind as it is on the body. There are no guarantees here, only opportunities for legends to rise or legacies to crumble. The only question left is, who will seize the next moment and who will crumble under the weight of expectations? In MMA, it's often the ones we least suspect who wind up making history, so keep your eyes on that cage door. When it shuts, reputations are on the line, destinies are decided, and the drama unfolds until the final bell sounds. After all, that's the essence of this roller coaster ride we call the fight game. Everyone is one move away from ultimate triumph or final defeat.